Everybody, good evening. Welcome to another session of Easy Dharma for Difficult Times. And today we'll be talking about Lama Tsongkhapa's life. I think a lot of you guys were expecting Pastor Naral, and unfortunately he's not well. So today I'm taking over. Surprise! So I haven't really planned for today. Okay, hold on. Before I do that, let me get to the screen first and see who's on, right? Give me a moment. Okay, I see a lot of people on already. Today I'll be doing a reading of Lama Tsongkhapa's life, and then we will talk about it, in between. And you can ask me questions, because why I picked Lama, I could have picked a lot of Lama's biographies, but I specifically picked Lama Tsongkhapa because I think it's technical, and I think because of the technical aspect of it, it is misunderstood or underappreciated. And I think it's very important because we should know Lama Tsongkhapa. He's the founder of our lineage, So that's why I picked this. And give me a moment, I'm going to put on something on the... I'm like one-man show right now. I'm like I'm doing this and I'm also typing stuff out for you guys. Wait, I'm going to put a link there, and you guys can read along with me. And then we'll stop halfway and, Okay, let me see who's on. Hi, Karine. Hi, Mr. Lam. Nice to see you. Good evening. And Jerry, welcome. Today we're going to... story time, okay? It's on Lama Tsongkhapa's life. All right, so without further ado, let's go to it. It's not very long, but it's not very short either. So I'll take some time reading, and then in between, we'll talk about it. So I have to switch screens. Good evening, Pastor Hani. Thank you for joining us. Okay, a brief biography of Lama Tsongkhapa. Tsongkhapa Losandrapa was born in the Tsongkha region of Amdo in 1357. Hence Tsongkhapa la, Tsongkhapa. So he's from Tsongkha, which is the valley of onions. Onions, yes. And he's the man from the valley of onions. His mother was Shinza Acho and his father was Lubumge. Among the numerous miraculous incidents and omens believed to have taken place surrounding his birth, perhaps the most famous is that of a drop of blood from Tsongkhapa's umbilical cord that is said to have fallen onto the ground, given rise to a sandalwood tree, whose leaves bore symbols related to Simhananda manifestation of the Bodhisattva Manjushri, a deity with whom Tsongkhapa would later be identified. His mother later built a stupa on this spot, and over time, further structures and temples were added. Today, the location of Tsongkhapa's birth is marked by Kumbum Monastery, founded in 1583 by the third Dalai Lama, Sonam Gyatso, on the spot of the original stupa. Okay, what we are talking about here, in case if you're reading it, it's like, so much words. What happened is, just like Rinpoche's life, all high lamas, one of the defining characteristics of their life is usually their birth. And usually there'll be dreams, there'll be signs, and the dreams are portent of who this baby is going to be, his qualities. So the dreams are quite significant. It points to three bodhisattvas, actually. Pointed to him being Manjushri, pointed to him being Vajrapani, and Chenrezig. Okay, so what happened is, let me see if you guys have anything to say. Good evening. So a lot of people come on suddenly. Welcome, story time today, Tsongkhapa's life. So we are at Tsongkhapa's birth. So I was talking about that, high lamas and attained beings, when they take rebirth, there's usually auspicious signs. And also, especially when the mother who's bearing the child, she'll often have dreams. Like for Tsongkhapa, the mother had one particular dream that came to mind. There's two, one by the father, one by the mother. The mother had one girl and one boy came to wash her, and then there's another one that there was a Chenrezig statue emerging from her, and then there is the father dreamt of Vajrapani. Vajrapani is the Buddha that holds a Vajra, and he dropped the Vajra from his Pure Land onto that landed into in a tummy. And even the neighbors had dreamed. The neighbor dreamt that that on the day of his birth, Tsongkhapa's birth, that there was a great procession of Jo Rinpoche, the most holiest statue of the Buddha in Tibet. And then of course there were other signs, but the main things were the dream. The main signs were the dreams. So this is what it was saying. And then one of the signs, is this that's mentioned in this biography, is that when the mother gave birth, the umbilical cord, when the baby is born, is attached to the mother, and so what happens is they have to cut it. So when they cut it, a little bit of the blood dropped onto the ground, and then from the ground a sandalwood tree grew. Sandalwood is not known to be native of that part of Tibet, okay? So it's unusual. And from not just that the tree was unusual of that part of Tibet, second thing was the leaves. There were shapes that emerged from the leaves that resemble the Bodhisattva Simhananda. Who is Simhananda Manjushri? Simhananda is lion's roar Manjushri. He is the Manjushri that sits on the lion. I mean, there's a few forms lah. It's like that. Sometimes it's like that, but he's sitting on the lion. So that's lion's roar Manjushri. All right. And okay, let me see. What's Tsongkhapa's? Okay, good morning. moon thing, it's evening. And Martin, hello. Welcome to Easy Dharma for Difficult Times. And Chung, you have a question. Was Lama Tsongkhapa's birth prophesied? Yes, it was prophesied. But this is not in the context of this biography. It was prophesied by the Buddha. It's apparently in the Root Tantra of Manjushri. It's one of those rare tantric texts that apparently the Buddha had prophesied by putting there was a child at this time that offered him a crystal rosary, and then he gave a conch shell in return. But the conch shell was not given to the boy. The Buddha prophesied that he will be reborn in the land of snows to revitalize the teachings. So that to symbolize that prophecy and for the future, he asked one of his disciples, Moggallana, the one with miraculous powers, to plant that into the ground. And apparently during the construction of Ganden Monastery, they unearthed it. And it is in Ganden Monastery apparently. All right? That was the prophecy of his birth during the Buddha's time. And okay, let's carry on. At the age of 3, Tsongkhapa took lay Upasaka vows from the 4th Karmapa Ropa Dorje and received the name Kunga Ningbo. At the age of 8, he received the novice ordination of Sramanera together with the name Losang Trakpa from the Kadam master Choje Dondrut Rinchen. Dondrut Rinchen, a great practitioner of Vajrabharava, had been in contact with Tsongkhapa and his family since the boy's birth, and is said to have received prophecies of the child's importance from his own teacher and deity. Okay, Dondrut Rinchen is quite attained Lama himself. And what happened was, before he even knew about Tsongkhapa, Dhammataka would appear to him in a vision and tell him that I will be reborn in this direction. And also, apparently his teacher, I don't know who is his teacher to be honest, also prophesied that the boy that will come under your care will be special, take care of him. And so what happens is, this part is talking about Tsongkhapa's early childhood, where he received lay vows first, then later on he received his ordination, because there are many levels of ordination. So there's a novice ordination where when you receive lay vows, what happens is called Upasaka. Upasaka, in case you're wondering what it is lay vows. So lay vows is something similar to the precepts, All right, when you're a precept holder, you're also a upasaka. So what happened is he was given a name. Usually when you receive some kind of ordination or some kind of vows, for example, when you take refuge, Rinpoche will give you a name. And for some of you guys, probably, I think some of you guys would become monks and nuns. I don't know if any of you watching is going to be that, but when you receive your ordination, your full ordination, okay, you will receive a name. Once you receive your ordination name, you no longer use your previous name from your family. You use your ordination. You'll be referred to by your ordination name from henceforth. Part of it is it's a practice of renunciation. That's why in Chinese, when you say to go to be ordained means to chetka, to like leave the family. So what it means is not literally the family, but leave lay life, leave samsara. So that's the idea. All right. So the name is just symbolic of it. And any questions? No questions? Okay, good. So everybody have an understanding. This is not too difficult. I like this biography because it has a different perspective compared to the other traditional biographies. Okay, and let's see, where was I? Okay, Tsongkhapa spent much of his youth studying with Dondruk Rinchen. He is said to have been so sharp that he understood and memorized even the most complicated texts. From Dondruk Rinchen, he received numerous tantric empowerments, most importantly that of Vajrabhairava. According to his secret biography, at the age of 7, he experienced visions of Atisha, Dipamkara, and the deity Vajrapani. Communication with various historical masters and deities would eventually become particularly central in the development of Tsongkhapa's understanding of Buddhism. Okay, when you see a lot of people are wondering, because like high lamas, they have already studied the teachings, they became the greatest lamas, and then they passed away and then they reincarnate. So what do they have to relearn? Some people, I remember hearing people ask me this question before. Actually, Rinpoche has answered it in such a way that actually they're not learning. They are not learning because a lot of them, when they enter the monastery and they study under the teachers, they pick things up just like that. Rinpoche said, just like that, they pick things up, some of the most complicated philosophy that other monks struggle with to understand, and then to debate on some more, and then to memorize. So for them, they just pick it up like that. So basically, the high lamas, when they study, they're not studying, they're not learning per se, they are refreshing the memory. So when the teacher teach them, so they pick it up very quickly. So I'm sure some of you guys already, Rinpoche said it doesn't really apply just to the high lamas. So a lot of us too. And it doesn't have to be Dharma. Some of us could be learning things again, and that's why some people pick things up faster than normal, and that's why there's such thing as child prodigies. So it is not unusual. It's not a specialty of high lamas. All beings, because reincarnation is not just by high lamas. The only difference between high lamas, attained beings, and us is that we have no control, because we have not done practices, meditation to control our mind and control our emotions and control our negative qualities, delusions. So the delusions control us. So when we pass away, we hope that the best of our prayers that you will take good rebirth. For high lamas, they are planning. They plan their work in this life, what they're going to do, and then they plan where they're going to go after that. So that's the extent of that's the difference between them and us. All right. So I have some comments here. Hi, Martin Chow. Welcome. Mr. Lam says this: was he the youngest person to have received the Upasaka vows at age 3? I would think so. I don't know of any other. I don't know about the other masters, but I think that's pretty young. Okay, pretty young. He must have been exceptional. Usually, high lamas are quite exceptional. Their behavior, their ability, their intelligence, and in this case, Lama Tsongkhapa was exceptional in the sense that he memorized things like a photocopier. That's what they said. I mean, they didn't use the word photocopier, but he just there's a number in his the other biographies I read, 16 pages. Each page of text is the Tibetan books are longish, loose sheets of books. So there's 16 of them. And each of them have about I don't know traditional how many 8 lines, something like that, 8 lines of text, and it's quite long. And he memorized that at a rate of 16 per day. And not only he memorized it, he's able to explain to you the meaning of what he memorized. That is his phenomenal absorption and comprehension. Apparently, that's what is said in his biography. All right, that's why he is emanation Manjushri. So let's continue. Oh, just before I go on, who is Vajrabharava Yamantaka? That bull face, 35 hands, deity, right? Okay, that one. Tsongkhapa spent much of his youth studying with Dondrot Rinchen. Oh, I read that, sorry. Next one. At the age of 16, Losang Drapao traveled to Wuzhang. Wuzhang is the central region of Tibet, never to return to his homeland. In Wuzhang, he studied with more than 50 different Buddhist scholars. As noted in his autobiography, Fulfilled Aims, he studied at length texts and topics such as the 5 treatises of Maitreya and related works by Asanga, and the Abhidhamma of Vasubandhu, the logic systems of Dignaga and Dhammakirti, and the Madhyamaka system of Nagarjuna and his followers such as Aryadeva. Following the figures such as Sakyapanita Kunga Gyaltsen and Bhutan Rinchen Drup, it was Tsongkhapa's emphasis on philosophical study and logic that would eventually become some of the defining characteristics of the Gelug tradition. So what happened is this. Okay, this is where later on, when he reached 16, he had to continue. He's here to further his studies because he is. At that point, he had a calling to go study philosophy. So in order to do that, at that time he had to travel, and he was in Amdo. Amdo is a faraway part of Tibet, towards the outer regions, close to China, actually. So someone has asked me a question here. Let me see. I see Irene. Hi, Irene. Who was the previous incarnation of Lama Tsongkhapa? Lama Tsongkhapa's line of incarnation, as far as I know, he was Atisha. Before Atisha, he was Guru Rinpoche. There might be other further, I think, Nagarjuna and all that. I'm not so sure, but I know he's Atisha and Guru Rinpoche. That line. All right. So, okay. How Rinpoche explained this is like this, because philosophy, you and I, we are, when we read the text, we'll be like, oh, what Madhyamaka, Dakaga, Lorik, Lojong, all that stuff. Philosophy, what Rinpoche said is basically everything which is the defining characteristics of Tsongkhapa's tradition. Everything that he taught has to have a scriptural reference or scriptural basis. So everything that he taught, so he will quote from a sutra this, from a sutra that. The Buddha said this, the Buddha said that, so that to give a backing to what he teaches. So, and then on top of that, it must be logically sound. According to in Buddhism, because Buddhism arose in India, and in India they have a very rich system of analyzing logic, not analyzing logic. Dialectics, the word is dialectics, meaning it's like debate. It's like to prove a particular dogma, a particular belief system, that it makes sense. That you talk of, let's say, impermanence. Why does impermanence? It's not just blind faith, There's a logical proof, and there's a way of approaching a subject through logic. And logic in the Indian tradition is highly, highly developed. It's in the world. There are several systems. There's a Western model, and there's the Indian model, and then I think the Chinese may have it as well. And what happened is they have a highly developed system, of how they analyze everything from religion to science and all that, through arriving at a conclusion. It is quite interesting when you study, and also it's to do with perception, with the mind, with how we perceive things, how we see things, and how using logic to identify certain objects like for example impermanence, for example death, for example the Buddha, for example karma. That's why there's inferential logic. In English they use inferential. Inferential means to infer. There's many. So generally all this are within these philosophical systems, these masters who taught them, because they are specialized in the way they come, in the way they present the teachings according to a particular method, particular logical system. Okay, so it's all mind-boggling to you. So what Rinpoche simplified to say that it is actually everything is to do with logic. It has to make sense. So once it makes sense, when you practice and you meditate on it, it goes in faster. So you gain attainments quicker. So when you want to grasp the subject, it's easier. All right, a particular subject that the Buddha taught, for example, impermanence, for example, karma, for example, emptiness. Higher levels of philosophy and understanding of wisdom. And the middle way, Madhyamaka is the middle way, and things like that. Okay, so let me see what is there to say. Okay, I've answered Mr. Lam. Okay, I've answered. Chung, you said Mula Madhyamika Karika. That's the text. What is that in context with? Perhaps you want to elaborate, because people don't know what you're talking about. All right. Okay. Anyway, we won't go into philosophy. We go into Tsongkhapa. All right, his life. So what happens is, let's continue on. Right. Tsongkhapa's studies were mainly focused on existing scholarly currents at that time, of which the most important was the Sakya tradition and the tradition of Sangpo, an important Kada monastery. Who remembers Sangpo? Sangpo Monastery. Why is this significant for us? One of Tsongkhapa's main teachers was Sakya master Rendawa Shunu Lundrup, who was a strong proponent of the Prasangika view of Madhyamaka. Tsongkhapa's devotion to Rendawa was so great that he composed the famous Miksema verse in praise of him. According to tradition, Rendawa felt that the verse was more applicable and descriptive of Tsongkhapa's qualities, and thus offered the prayer back to him. Today, this verse is still considered by the Gelug faithful as the principal method to invoke the blessings of Tsongkhapa. That Miksema, right? In addition to Dondrut Rinchen, some of Tsongkhapa's main tantric gurus included Chenga Sonam Gyaltsen, a Drikung Lama from whom he received the 6 dharmas of Naropa, the Jonang Lama Chokle Namgyal, from whom he received the Kala Chakra cycle, and the Sakya master Rinchen Dorje, from whom he received the Lambre teachings and the Hevajra Tantra. So basically, Tsongkhapa's education was based on philosophy, was based on his devotion to his teacher, as exemplified by his devotion to Rendawa. And because originally the Miksema was written for Rendawa. And in his relation to Rendawa is interesting, You know what's interesting? It's very rare you have this, where the Lama, which is Rendawa, his teacher, Rendawa, and him, they are mutual student and disciple. So he will give teachings to his master, and his master will give teachings to him. They'll exchange teachings, and they consider each other like guru and student. I don't know how this works, but it works for them. And so it's quite interesting. And when they exchange teachings, it's not just like something to pass you a knowledge. They really regard each other highly. Hence, that's why that Miksema has a special blessing. Okay, everybody knows Rendawa. In Tsongkhapa's life, there's so many teachers, many, but there's a few that stands out. Dondrut Rinchen is his first, and then Rendawa is one of his teachers that is significant in this because of the Miksema. And okay, let's continue on. Where was I? I was saying Sangpu. Why is it significant? Does anybody know? Sangpu, does anybody remember? I don't think so. Sangpu is the monastery where Loden Sherab brought satrap. You know when satrap, not satrap, when Loden Sherab, Lotsawa Loden Sherab went to India to study Sanskrit and bring back the text, in order to translate the teachings right from India into Tibetan. So he brought back satrap. When he brought back satrap, he arrived back in Tibet. He's part of Tibet, and the monastery that was founded by his uncle is the name of the monastery is called Sangpu, Sangpu Nyutok. So satrap was enthroned in this monastery, and if you do, I don't know if anybody here is firm satrap practitioners, but when you do the puja, it's always mentioned Sangpu Monastery, calling satrap from Sangpu Monastery. All right. And unfortunately, why satrap was brought to Ganden is interesting as well, because there was a fire that broke out in Sangpu Monastery, and then when the fire, when the monastery, that part of the monastery was burned down, a lot of the monks had to move because the monastery couldn't accommodate them, so they moved to Ganden. When they moved to Ganden, they brought along the practice of satrap. So over time in Ganden, they eventually enthroned some of the attained lamas at that time, enthroned satrap because they realized he's very powerful and very effective. So it became the Dharma protector of Ganden Shatse. All right, that's the history. That's right, Chung. Lekpe Sherab. That's the uncle. Yeah. So Sangpu is interesting because in the earlier days, Sangpu was one of the biggest monasteries. You know, like Ganden. Now you go to Tibet, if you travel to Tibet, so the biggest monastery is Ganden, Ser, and Drepung, right? These three monasteries. But in the heyday, in the past, it was Sangpu. That was a huge monastery in olden times. All right. Just thought I'll let you guys know lah. And okay, let's continue on. Tenzin Jamkha, King Nam. I heard from someone that Guru Nanak was an emanation of Tsongkhapa. Okay, I don't know about that. Completely different subject, different tradition, so I can't comment about that. Sorry. Perhaps most importantly, he received the Goya Samaja cycle from Kyungpo Lekpo Junu Sonam, a student of Bhutan Rinchen Drup, and the cycle of the Bodhi Mandala of Heruka Chakraswaram from the Sakya Master Lama Dampa Sonam Gyaltsen Pel Sangpo. Tsongkhapa's studies on Tantra were not limited to the Anuttaya Yoga Tantras. He extensively studied the Kriya, Charya, and Yoga Tantras as well, noting the importance of the gradual approach to the Vajrayana in his brief autobiography. Furthermore, although it would not become a doctrine of the later Gelug tradition, Tsongkhapa also studied the Dzogchen teachings with Lodrak Drupchen Namkha Gyaltsen. Okay, this part is a bit all on Tantra. You may not be familiar, or maybe when you read it, when you hear it, it's like, it's a lot of names to remember and confuse. The idea is that he studied Tantra, okay? There are 4 classes of Tantra. 4 classes of Tantra. Basically, all Tantric practices, all Tantric meditations, they classify into 4 levels. So there's a lower Tantra. The first 3 is considered lower, and there's a higher Tantra. So higher Tantra, the meditations are more complex, and the meditations are complex, and the meditations can bring you directly to enlightenment because you're moving your psychic channels, all right, in order to develop realization of emptiness, to become enlightened. So the lower Tantra is to prepare you for higher Tantra, and it also for various uses like gaining wisdom and all that. So that's why it's mentioned Kriya, Charya Yoga and Anuttara Yoga. These are the 4 classes of Tantra. So these are to let you know that Lama Tsongkhapa studied earlier. He studied Sutra, which is all the philosophy, and now he studied Tantra. All right. In the Buddha's teachings, is divided into this the philosophy and the philosophy part and the tantric aspect. Tantra here is it is in theory. It is not so much as the meditations, but also what happens is it becomes the foundation of all the practices that he does later. Any questions? Am I going to? Did I boggle everybody down that only a few smart, advanced people only are following well? I wanted to bring this up because I wanted to bring Tsongkhapa up, this biography, so that people hear it, people understand, and I try to bring it down to people to understand him. Because when I remember when I first joined Kechara many years ago, and okay, this is a Guluk tradition. Okay, Guluk is founded by Lama Tsongkhapa, so I bought his biography. And when I started reading, I was like, oh gosh, it is not easy. I couldn't. The biography that I bought was not the entire book. It's the first chapter only. The rest are the other writings. I cannot remember who was the author, but the translator, but I just remember it was very, very difficult through. And because of all these words, all the Tibetan names, all the philosophy, Madhyamaka, and also about the tantric systems of body mandala this, body mandala that, that he studied. Yeah, so what I want to do is because of that, I think people do not fully appreciate who Lama Tsongkhapa is in reference to our tradition. We all say, oh, Lama Tsongkhapa is a founder of Gelug tradition. Who is he? What does he do? What did he teach? We don't know. So that's why it's important to understand, I think. So there's Sutra and Tantra. Okay, so this is the part, right? Through his studies, Tsongkhapa's understanding of Madhyamaka philosophy became more concrete and experiential. By his early 20s, he had begun composing his most important early work, The Golden Garland, which deals with Prajna Paramita, perfection of wisdom. Tsongkhapa would continue to write throughout his life, producing 18 volumes collection of texts. Although Tsongkhapa is credited with being the author of his writings, it is believed that many were composed through the instruction and inspiration of deities that he saw in visions, particularly Manjushri. As described in his secret biography, Tsongkhapa is said to have initially relied on his teachers to communicate with various deities on his behalf. His Nyingma teacher, Namkha Gyaltsen, for example, was believed to be able to communicate with Vajrapani and to have acted as an intermediary between the deity and Tsongkhapa. Later in his life, Tsongkhapa was interested in traveling to India, but was dissuaded to do so by Vajrapani through this medium. Okay, this is interesting. If you actually read Tsongkhapa's longer biography than this, there's two teachers. Okay, one of them is this one, Namkha Gyaltsen. Then there's another one that is, what's his name already? Sheesh. Is it mentioned here? The Manjushri one. Lama Umapa. Okay, Lama Umapa and Namkha Gyaltsen. These two are teachers that you can see Buddhas. So Lama Umapa is a special Lama because when he had some kind of sudden awakening, he was a shepherd before when he was very young. He used to shepherd, I think, yaks or something like that, sheep or yaks or something like that in one part of Tibet. And then something happened, like struck by lightning, and then when he woke up, he gained a vision of Manjushri. And then from then on, right, Manjushri was always appearing to him, always talking, always teaching him, and he became a monk and he became a great scholar, a great master himself. So Lama Tsongkhapa would go to him to seek teachings, and actually what the master was doing was whenever Lama Tsongkhapa asked him a very technical question, all he did was he conveyed the question to Manjushri because he can see Manjushri. So it's like he acted as like intermediary. So at that time, Lama Tsongkhapa couldn't see Manjushri yet. So it's very funny because he passed. And this one, Namkha Gyaltsen, also same thing. Namkha Gyaltsen could see Vajrapani. And when they met, it's very interesting. When Namkha Gyaltsen met Lama Tsongkhapa, it's very interesting because he didn't see a human, He didn't see this monk coming to him. He saw Manjushri coming to him. And then Lama Tsongkhapa, when he saw Namkha Gyaltsen, he didn't see this Lama coming to him. He saw Vajrapani. So they both saw each other as not a human being as the bodhisattvas themselves. This is immortalized. There's a painting I saw online. There's two figures above two monks. Yeah, it's very nice. Just thought I'll let you know. All right. So yes, where was I? Whenever time I read, I get lost a bit because I scroll. Okay. You see, what happens is the idea of philosophy, the idea of studying emptiness, the idea of learning all these teachings is to gain an experiential knowledge, experiential understanding of these teachings. What's an experiential understanding? Experiential understanding means, actually I spoke about in the previous teaching, in the previous sharing, it means that it's not a piece of knowledge in your head. It is that the knowledge in your head is within you already. It is you, it has changed you and has become a part of you. So your actions reflect the teachings. So that's when you gain an experiential. It's just another word for attainments, when you gain attainment. All right? So in this case, he was talking of Madhyamaka philosophy, which means what? Middle way, emptiness. So the philosophy of approaching emptiness, because emptiness, I won't go into what is emptiness, all right? This is not the time, and I have not qualified to teach you what emptiness is. It's basically to give you a rough idea, right? Emptiness is a nature of reality, of how things really are, lacking of inherent existence. Okay, so no need to go so much into it, but in order to gain and understand a realization, direct perception, they call it in some of the texts, they say direct, that means you're seeing it in your mind, seeing the real nature of reality, right? Which is empty lah. Is that it's become a part of you. So when it becomes a part of you, you have dissolved your sense of I already. You have it doesn't mean that you become a robot. That's not what it is. You're totally selfless. Okay, that's what happens when you're totally selfless. What happens is you purify all your negative karma, because all negative karma, the basis of all negative karma is your wrong sense of the I. Okay, all of us have a sense of self-identity, and that is symbolic with our names. I'm Pastor David, you are Chung, you are Martin, you are Mr. Lam, you are, so and so and so and so. So what happens is all this are just a label that we have to identify this self. Okay? So what happens is when you don't have even the label, even the name becomes sacred. That's why when we recite our Lama's name, a Lama who is symbolic of having no self, right? We gain the blessings of emptiness. We can purify karma, we can gain attainments. All right, anyway, I kind of digressed there. Yes, you're right, Chung. Uma is middle way. It is, that's Tibetan. Uma is Tibetan, Madhyamaka is Sanskrit. So it's completely, pronunciation and the whole word is different. Okay, anyway, this is all technicality, right? Let's go back into the story. So he had a wonderful teacher who can see Vajrapani, and Manjushri is more significant than Vajrapani in this case for Lama Tsongkhapa's life. But in that part of of Lama Tsongkhapa's life, he heard of a teacher in India, and he's a Mahasiddha, Maitripa actually, and he wanted to travel to India to receive teachings from this master, this Mahasiddha called Maitripa, and he asked Namkha Gyaltsen whether it's a good idea to go. Asked Vajrapani. So Vajrapani said, no, don't go, because what happens is if you go, the teachings in Tibet will be severely affected. Okay, if you go, if you don't go, you have potential to benefit the teachings. Please stay. So Vajrapani advised Lama Tsongkhapa to remain. Otherwise, Lama Tsongkhapa would have gone to India, and apparently he would have remained in India and you know, and then we will have lost it already, lost Lama Tsongkhapa. Perhaps there'll be no Gelug school. Perhaps, you know, a lot of things wouldn't have arisen. So Manjushri's contribution to Lama Tsongkhapa is this. Manjushri gave a lot of advice, even more than Vajrapani. Because Manjushri and Lama Tsongkhapa, I know some of you are thinking, how Lama Tsongkhapa and Manjushri, Lama Tsongkhapa is emanation of Manjushri. So he's basically talking to himself lah. Yeah, basically, yeah, in a way. What happens is when you are enlightened, when you reach a certain level of enlightenment, right, you can split yourself. And then when you split yourself, you're not talking to yourself. It's not a shadow of yourself. It's another person, but it's your same mind. That is, if that blows your mind away, then you have trouble with the higher teachings of Buddhism lah. Because what happens is your mind doesn't have limits. So what happens is when you've realized the higher teachings, right, you're able, that's one of your abilities, you're able to emanate. So when you emanate, you can have emanation. So Manjushri emanated as Lama Tsongkhapa. Manjushri also emanated as Dozin Drapa Gyaltsen, a student of Lama Tsongkhapa. I don't think in this biography is mentioned, but maybe later. So there's emanations, all right? So although they may operate like, you know, separately, but they are same mind stream. So it's very common, and many of the lamas, some are like linked together in that way. So that's just, it's not so much, Irene, you say this is a divine play for our minds. It's not divine play. Divine play is something else, Irene. This is an ability of an enlightened mind. When you have gained enlightenment, you're able to do that. You're able to emanate your mind out. So Rinpoche used to say it like this. What it means is, you know, is that your mind is like a bucket. And when you've gained attainment, you are able to scoop out the water from your bucket of water. Your mind is a bucket of water lah. So when you've gained enlightenment, you're able to scoop out the water into many other cups. So in the cups will be outside of the bucket, you know, and then they will do their own thing. You can be used to water the plant. It can be used to feed someone. I mean, give someone a drink. You know, it could be made into a cake or whatever it is. So it's operating independent of the bucket. But the nature is water inside the cup, and inside the bucket it is also water. Same nature. It's just water. Okay. So just like an enlightened mind, you're able to do that. So for us, we are not enlightened, so we will not be able to understand and comprehend until we gain that kind of realization. All right? So, Huang Man, is it? Time flies, your hair so that long. Yes, thank you. It's about a month already since I cut my hair. Anyway, let's continue on. Apart from a short period of teaching, Tsongkhapa, did I read? Okay, this part I should read. I missed this paragraph. In the same way, Tsongkhapa initially relied on his teacher Umapa Pao Dorje to act as an intermediary with Manjushri. Tsongkhapa had met this Kagyu Lama when he was 33. By this time, Tsongkhapa had completed his work on the Golden Garland and was with Pao Dorje studying Chandrakriti's Madhyamaka Pao Dorje and Tsongkhapa undertook a retreat together during this period, and Tsongkhapa is said to pose many or numerous questions to Manjushri through Pao Dorje. Eventually, however, Tsongkhapa himself began to experience visions and was able to communicate with Manjushri directly, receiving instructions and tantric empowerments, most importantly those related to Manjushri and Vajrabhairava. Over the course of his life, Tsongkhapa continued to receive visions of Manjushri as well as a host of other deities and masters such as Asanga and Nagarjuna. Although Tsongkhapa is widely regarded as being a manifestation of Manjushri, the nature of his visions was nevertheless being contested by some non-Gelug masters and so forth, especially Sakya scholar Gorampa Sonam Sengye, who was critical of Tsongkhapa in his approach to Madhyamaka. Apart from a short period of teaching, Tsongkhapa continued to engage in intensive retreats. He and a community of 8 disciples began a long retreat at Chadril Hermitage in 1392, moving to Oka Cholung several years later. During this retreat, they famously completed extensive preliminary practices, for example, completing 3.5 million prostrations in conjunction with the practice of Triskanda Dhamma Sutra, that is the 35 confessional Buddhas. All right? So, one of the things that Tsongkhapa was famous for is his humility. All right? When it comes to Manjushri, his humility, because initially he started by asking his Lama Mopama, please ask Manjushri this question. Keep asking the Lama to convey the message of Manjushri. Then he himself gained a vision of Manjushri. And then he didn't believe it was Manjushri. He thought it was a spirit. So he asked his Lama, is that Manjushri? Please ask Manjushri your vision, ask your vision to check whether the vision I have is correct or not. Because I'm not sure. So I trust you, my Lama. So that's what he did. And then only then the Lama said, yes, it's Manjushri. You are receiving a correct understanding of Manjushri. Not correct understanding, a correct vision of Manjushri, and you can rely on him. You do not have to go through me anymore. So from then on, Tsongkhapa would consult and speak to Manjushri directly. So he had that kind of devotion that he would believe his Lama, not his vision. All right? And the second thing is, second thing about that is, wait, there was one thing. Oh, he had problems. Tsongkhapa himself had problems. He realized he couldn't understand certain aspects of the teachings, and he found it difficult. And he asked Manjushri, he asked many questions. And all the questions, when he came back, he understood it, but he couldn't grasp it in his mind. Yeah, even Lama Tsongkhapa couldn't define the very deepest most of emptiness and all that things, all that kind of level of teachings lah. So what happened was, Manjushri told him, don't just meditate on emptiness. You have to collect merits. Yes. Lama Tsongkhapa need to collect merits. You know what that means? What about us? We are far away from Lama Tsongkhapa, far away. Definitely we have to collect even more merits than Lama Tsongkhapa. And so what Lama Tsongkhapa did was he went on a preliminary practice retreat. So that's where he did the 3.5 million prostration. He did don't know how many mandala offerings, I forgot how many. He did it apparently so much that he's here. Mandala offerings, I don't know whether you have seen my earlier teachings. I did, the actual mandala set, you have to use your hand and you rub it, right? Our mandala sets are very modern, smooth, metal. Some of it is silver. The fortunate ones have silver, or you have copper, or stainless steel. Whatever it is still smooth lah, easy. What Lama Tsongkhapa had was a stone slab. So stone is definitely rough. Okay, so when he did that, it was abrasive here. Over time, he was just bleeding. And Tsongkhapa prostrated. He didn't prostrate into a smooth, nice, a floor where we have a cushion, a yoga mat. Tsongkhapa prostrated on a rock. So it said that the place, Oka Cholung, the place where Lama Tsongkhapa had prostrated, the floor went ground, it became an incline, because the amount of time he prostrated. He prostrated 3.5 million. I cannot imagine how to do 3.5 million. If any of us can do 108 prostration, it would be amazing already per day. I did once, just to let you know, many years ago, many years ago, I don't know why I can't remember actually, to be honest. I cannot remember what I did wrong, what I did to make Rinpoche very upset with me. I forgot what it was. And Rinpoche was very upset, and then he told me that he was angry that he scolded me and all that. And then he told me that I have to do prostration, to repair my samaya. So I did. And I had to do it in at that time was Kechara House. Kechara House is in Sunway Mas. So I went there, and he told me for 2 days, you do 1,000 prostration per day. Yeah, I was like 1,000 prostration. So I was like, yeah, I did. Oh my God, I tell you, it was not easy, man. 1,000 prostration. So let's say if you do 1,000 prostration a day, if you do if our preliminary practice is 100,000, so you need about 100 days lah. That's about 3 months. Yeah, 3 months. Then you finish 100,000. So can you imagine if it's 3.5 million? I don't know how many Dharma Tsongkhapa did. They never mentioned the details of like how many he did a day, but 3.5 million, you know. And each 3.5 million is not to one Buddha, you know, is to 35. So it's 100,000 to each. So I can imagine that because the sutra that we're talking about, the 35 confessional Buddha, the prayer, the sutra, right? You basically, oh, this is his Buddha, I prostrate. You know, this is his Buddha, I prostrate. So can you imagine he has to recite, he probably memorized it. Many monks actually have that sutra memorized. So they memorized it and he prostrate. So it's like, wow, it's not easy, man. So that was one of the specialty of Lama Tsongkhapa. Even Lama Tsongkhapa had to collect merits. He had to do his preliminary practice. He had to in order to gain the merits. And I don't think that he doesn't have the merits. He was just manifesting that. Perhaps for us to encourage people in the future to do practice, to do preliminary practice, to collect the merits needed to gain realization. And usually preliminary practices like prostration, 100,000 prostration, mandala offerings, guru yoga, and all that, it's meant to prepare you for higher tantric initiation. So when you do your practices, then when you when you receive the initiation, let's say Vajragini, higher tantric, what kind of initiation we're talking about? Like Vajragini. So when you receive Vajragini, so what happens is you have the merits to support it. If you do not have the merits to support it, then when you gain the practice, you will gain no result. Either you gain no result or you will not be able to do the practice. You will give it up or you leave the Dharma. And Rinpoche has told us one of the reasons why he has not, last time to be honest, he has not given Vajragini initiation is that even when he gives permission to people to just do the praise, for example, right? These people, their mind change. They give up. They decide they give up Kechara. They decide they want to do something else, and he noticed that. So that's why he felt that people here do not have the merits, and it's important. That's why he kept when Rinpoche gives teachings of Vajragini, that he always encouraged people. You have to do preliminary practices. You have to do that, and in preparation to receive tantra, which is the correct traditional way. All right, just to let you know. Apart from a short period of teaching, Tsongkhapa continued to engage in, this is the one, intensive retreats. He and a community of 8 disciples began a long retreat at Chatriel Hermitage in 1392, moving to Oka Chuling several years later. During this retreat, they famously completed extensive preliminary practices, for example, completing 3.5 million prostrations in conjunction with the practice of Triskanda Dhamma Sutra, following 35 confessional Buddha. Following the retreat, Tsongkhapa traveled to Xinji, where he performed his first of 4 great deeds. Okay, there's many things Lama Tsongkhapa did in his life, many, but among all of them, there's 4 that stood out. And in our tradition, we consider them the 4 deeds of Lama Tsongkhapa that is his greatest. So what he did was, he jumped. Where did he go? Sorry, my screen jumped. Oh, there you are. During this period in 1398, Tsongkhapa is believed to have attained realization and perfect understanding of the Madhyamaka due to a vision of an assembly of great Indian Prasangika masters. So this is just after the retreat. See? After the retreat, when he finished the retreat, he gained a beautiful vision of the 35 confessions, and then all these masters came to him and they blessed him. Okay, and when they blessed him, it is symbolic. When high lamas and great masters has a vision, it's not just a show. It's not a, it's not their imagination. It's not. It's actually, it means that they have gained attainments. They have gained some sort of attainments in their mind, some sort of realization of the teachings, some sort of perception of emptiness and bodhicitta. So there is symbolic in a vision of a particular Buddha appearing to them. Sometimes when the Buddha appeared, many of the times when they appear, it's not just them appearing and then showing, like that, They usually give some kind of proclamation, perhaps a prophecy. Many of whatever they have spoken to the lamas probably would have been lost because the lama themselves will never reveal what the Buddha said. Okay? But in this case, it's recorded that he had achieved emptiness after the retreat. Okay, let me see if you guys have any question before I go on, because I have to jump screens in order to read. Okay, I don't think you guys have any questions. Please ask, please share if I'm going too fast, or if the significance of what I'm explaining is lost to you, or you don't understand. Please share anything, right? It is important for us to understand his life so that we understand our tradition, we understand what we are about, what Dorje Shukden is protecting. The Golok school, the special view of emptiness of Nagarjuna's view based on Lama Tsongkhapa's teachings. What is that? And who is Lama Tsongkhapa? So if you are in Kechara, you should have at least a very basic understanding of who Lama Tsongkhapa is. And I'm trying to convey that based on his biography so you understand, not from all these technical words, because no point you memorize Matya Makala, you memorize all these technical terms when you don't understand what it means. Okay? So at that time, what he did was, when he attained realization after the retreat, he actually went to a temple, a dilapidated temple. It's called Zinji. This is recorded as his greatest act, one of his greatest acts, in which what he did was, he had no money, he had to restore a Maitreya statue. And I just cut it without reading, cut the time. So the statue, so he did some pujas to Vajravana, Namtose, and then people came and offered help, and then eventually he managed to restore the temple and he consecrated the Maitreya statue. And this is considered one of his greatest acts based on what? Based on the fact that many of his acts, when you look at it, it doesn't seem like that special. He restored the temple, but it's significant because his practice of his lineage and his practice will be linked to Maitreya. All right, there is significance in that. Everybody understand that? Let me know if you don't. Mr. Lam, you asked me, who is the current incarnation of Tsongkhapa, Lama Tsongkhapa, all right? Tsongkhapa, when he passed away, apparently has no incarnation. He said no. Apparently, I was told. Well, I think Rinpoche mentioned a long time ago. But he has emanations. And it's believed that Domo Geshe Rinpoche is a Tsongkhapa emanation, one of his main emanations. All right. Usually, someone of his stature, right? Usually, a Rinpoche, not Rinpoche, someone as attained as Lama Tsongkhapa, someone as of that level, right? When they pass away, they don't just emanate, come back as one. They come up many of them. All right. So some of them, usually what happens is when they say no incarnation, it means that they don't want to be recognized. So they want to do work that is unrecognized. And perhaps sometimes it doesn't necessarily mean that they are teaching Buddhism sometimes. Sometimes they are manifest in other traditions. It said a bodhisattva's work may not just be within Buddhism. Sometimes they will be from other spiritual traditions. This is something that Rinpoche has implied many times. and other traditions, and in order to lead people on the spiritual path in a different way, because it's easier for sentient beings due to karma lah. All right. That's why Domo Geshe Rinpoche, but this is unofficial. Okay, no one has actually formally recognized Domo Geshe Rinpoche. It is only the Dalai Lama, the previous Dalai Lama, the 13th Dalai Lama, it's written in his account, but that's it. It's never formally said, oh, this is Lama Tsongkhapa. That's why you don't call him a Tsongkhapa emanation or Tsongkhapa Rinpoche. No. All right. Okay, let's carry on. Thus, in 14, Prasankhya Masters, immediately following this experience, he composed the Praise to Dependent Origination. This experience began a new epoch in Tsongkhapa's life. So what this biography is interesting, because other biographies write it quite differently. Oh, he restored the temple, that's it. And then when he consecrated the temple, all the Buddhas, a spectacular vision of all the Buddhas emerged, they came to the temple and then dissolved into the statue. This is what is said in other biographies. In this one, it talks about how it is a turning point for Lama Tsongkhapa, because he gained realization of Madhyamaka, and then he came to the temple, restored it, and then after that he switched from composing and teaching. He switched from just doing receiving teachings and meditation and retreats. He switched to composing and teaching. That means he gained realization, and his time now is to teach. All right. So this is I like this biography. That's why, because of this, it tells you something different from a different perspective, and of Tsongkhapa's life. Right. Thus, in 1402, at the age of 46, while at Reteng Monastery, he composed the Lamrim Chenmo, known in English as the Great Treatise on the Stages of the Path to Enlightenment. Undoubtedly his most famous work. The Lamrim that we study in, there's many Lamrims, by the way. There's a Lamrim by Atisha, there's a Lamrim by the Dalai Lama, the fifth Dalai Lama. There's the Lamrim by some of the pension lamas. There's two, in fact. I can't remember which number of pension lamas. And then there is a Lamrim by Pabongka Rinpoche. The one that we study is the Pabongka Rinpoche Lamrim. So all of them were based originally on Atisha's Lamrim. And apparently the longest and most extensive Lamrim was Tsongkhapa's Lamrim. And there is an English translation of it, actually. It comes in 3 volumes, 3 thick volumes. And I attempted to look through it once. And it is really scholarly, just as typical of Lama Tsongkhapa's works. And a lot of it is heavily on meditation and experiential. I actually refer it for some of my material for, when I wanted to write about meditation, I would refer it, because the other Lamrims will not have as much information about it as the Tsongkhapa's Lamrim. So there's something interesting. And in each section, usually the topics are all the same, basically. The arrangement of the topics may vary a little bit, but the topics will be the same. There will always be, Atisha's biography in the beginning, and then death and impermanence, and, refuge, and all the topics will be generally the same. But the way it's presented will be different. So Tsongkhapa's Lamrim will be very scholarly. So he will quote a lot heavily on many scriptural sources from the Buddha, from this sutra, from that sutra, because Tsongkhapa is a scholar. He's a scholar. He's a fantastic scholar, amazing memory. So he based all of that he knows, and he wrote the Lamrim. So his Lamrim is, for a normal person, a normal practitioner would find it difficult to go through. All right. So Pabongka's Lamrim is meant for the lay person, the everyday person. So it's easier to digest, although some people might find it difficult, some people might not. And then there's many other, there's even Geshe Kelsang has his own version of it, and he presents it a slightly different way. And some people like that. What is the name? I can't remember the name. He named it, he didn't call it Lamrim, he called it something else. Fulfillment of all hopes or something like that. So what happens is, he started writing. And let me see if this says this. Okay, it did. Okay, let me continue. Based on Atisha's Dipamkara's Bodhi Prata Pratipa, Atisha's Lamrim lah, it described in detail the gradual path to enlightenment from the perspective of the Sutrayana. So just ignore that because that's technical. Echoing the doubt that Buddha felt after his enlightenment that people wouldn't understand his teaching, it is said that Tsongkhapa was initially disheartened by the thought that most readers would not be able to comprehend his explanations on emptiness, which formed the later part of the work. A vision of Manjushri, however, inspired Tsongkhapa to complete the composition. So what this part is, you see, the Lamrim is step 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, all the way up to emptiness. Okay, when he reached emptiness, and he stopped there for a while, and then he was pondering whether to continue, because he was thinking, what's the point? Many people will not understand. So he was wondering whether he should continue, whether this whole endeavor was even worthwhile going through it. So during that time, Manjushri appeared to him and told him, please continue. You will have a middling, it said, I read the account, a middling benefit. It will not have fantastic benefit, but you have middling. Middling means some people will be benefited, especially in this chapter, because this chapter will help people gain attainments, will help people gain understanding, realization of emptiness. Okay, so you will create attained beings through this chapter. Please continue. And he did. So in the colophon, it is said that Tsongkhapa, when he wrote, who asked him to a colophon is usually a traditional thing in the Tibetan text where it's like a after note, and usually it tells you the basis of the text. Sometimes there's a story surrounding the text, why the Lama composed it, perhaps it's what inspired it. So Lama Tsongkhapa's colophon for Lamrim Chenmo mentioned, he didn't say, oh, Manjushri told him to write. He mentioned inspired by the children of something like that, something that infer Manjushri. Okay, so this is pointed out in Pabongka's Lamrim. He mentioned it in there. I remember reading it. Well, I cannot remember exact words right now, but it's something along those lines. This is a very famous story actually of the Lamrim where he almost gave up halfway. He was pondering whether to continue. All right, so okay, I think I better speed up because it's quite late already and it's quite long more. All right. Are you guys sleepy already? Did I bore you? Thank you very much, Martin and Han Pasani. Joyful Path of Good Fortune, that's right. And Chung as well. Yep, so let's continue on. Okay, I've lost it again. Just give me a moment. Let me find where I was reading. Sheesh. Okay. That was his first deed, which is to restore Zinji. But surrounding it was what made it special. All right, his attainments, and when he blessed the statue, the temple, Zinji is Maitreya, it has special significance. In 1402, Tsongkhapa performed his second great deed. While staying at Namsiding during the rainy season with his teacher Rendawa and Kyapchok Pelzangpo, he gave a detailed commentary on the Vinaya to a large assembly of monks. Apart from his emphasis on study, Tsongkhapa is perhaps known for the importance he places on monastic discipline of the Vinaya. Why is Vinaya important? Vinaya is monastic vows. It's a whole genre of teachings of Sakya Prabha, Guna Prabha, these masters, Indian masters who wrote commentaries on the Vinaya. Vinaya is a whole body of teachings that analyzes and talks about monk vows, the conduct of monks and how monks should behave and why they should hold this conduct, what's the significance, how does one go about it, and what's the ramifications, all that. Okay, so what's important is, why is it important is because wherever when you want a Dharma to spread, to grow, okay, you need the presence of Sangha. You need Sangha in that area. If the area has no Sangha, the Dharma cannot grow. It will be very difficult. So that's why Vinaya is important for Dharma to grow, to proliferate. So the study of it will encourage people to understand their vows so they hold it well. And then that in turn will inspire other people to become monks and nuns. All right? So that is his second greatest deed. So he gave apparently an exceptionally good teaching on the Vinaya that during this Nam sitting. Usually, yeah, rainy season but there's no rain in Tibet, by the way. There's no rain, but they follow the Buddha's example, where in India there's rain and they have monsoon. So during that time, there's a period in the year where it's monsoon season where it rains a lot. So what they do is usually they retreat to the monasteries and to do a retreat, a yarne. A retreat is it's a meditational retreat, and sometimes they do a teaching retreat or whatever it is. It's a retreat. So that tradition has brought over to Tibet, and which was mentioned here. So don't read blindly think it rained in Tibet. It didn't. It's not that there's no rainy season in Tibet. It's just that monastic tradition was brought over because it's in following the Buddha's example. All right. And Tsongkhapa was a prolific author of tantric literature. As a companion volume to the Lamrim Chenmo, Tsongkhapa wrote the Ngakrim Chenmo, the great treatise on the tantric stages of path to enlightenment, in 1405, covering all 4 classes of tantra. So I think I will stop here and perhaps continue a little on another session because it's quite late already, and it is not. I'm sure it is. For some of you, you find it fascinating. For some of us, we may struggle a little bit with some of the terms, and we may be the subject matter of Tsongkhapa. But I think it's important we all learn about him and his life. And I will take any last few questions or comments that for the night. All right, and tomorrow will be Pastor Neral, and he will continue on his 6 realms again. I think he did. I think he will do human. He will do human. So we'll be in the human realm. He did what, animal the last time, so he will come to the human realm. So this is what Tsong has to say. Isn't Lama Tsongkhapa at this point repeating the Tripitaka that was brought by Buddha, Shakyamuni Sutra, Abhidhamma, and Vinaya? Brought? What do you mean repeating the Tripitaka? I don't get what you mean. So maybe you can ask next. You can remember the question, or I will remember the question. If I know the answer, I'll tell you. If I don't, I don't. All right. Maybe if you know, you can share with us. All right. Thank you very much, and I will do a short dedication, and then we end for the night. All right. Chanchu Sencho Rinpoche, Mage Panan Gyushe, Gebaya Mami Payang, Gonden Kodo Pawasho, Tony Tonga Rinpoche, Mage Panan Gyushe, Gebaya Mami Payang, Gonden Kodo Pawasho, Daso Genis Abagewadi, Tanandro, Gunlankan Pantan, Jebojo Lozon Drop, Tamping Purindo Sa, Shesho, Gewa Gunzo Yana Lamadan, Jemmy Joki Pala Long Choshe, Sada Langi on the Rajoni, Doji Changi Gopa Yudosho, Gewadi, Yuruda, Lama Sangi Juni, Chuachika Malupa, De Salago Basho, Chuju Jabo Tsongkhapa, Choso Nama Pewala, Geki Shamachi Wadan, Tuni Malu Shansho, Dadan Shengi Duzundan, George Letani, Gawa Lozon Drapa, Tamparin Vagushi, Nimo Dallas and Dele, Neme Goyan Dalashin, Yasantatu Dalapel, Contrason Jingulo, Contrason Odoso, Contrason Tashi, Jason Lama Kuzo Raptanchi, Namkachi, Jogi Padan, Lozon Temi, Join Samsungi, Jumuso Tatuni, Gushi, Gandhi Rawe Koi, Shingam de, Penen Deva Malukyoin, Chen Rezik, 110 Yasoi, Shape Sidi Badu Den Yuji Hong Tombing Oju Malupa, Den the Dollar So, Cotton Temple Lojana, Gebazuji shook den sell. All right. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody. I'll see you on the next session.